So thanks everyone for joining us today. This is the part 2 of our risk management workshop, and we are doing organics. This particular session is organics, and we're working with our partner, Choctaw Fresh Produce, and they are certified organic. And so we are going to move right into letting our speaker, Daphne Snow, introduce herself, give a little backstory of anyone that was not on part 1, just to let you know her history in farming and in certified organics. Daphne, you can take it away.
Okay, thank you, Felicia. I am Daphne Snow, the farm manager for Choctaw Fresh Produce, and this business is owned by the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians in Choctaw, Mississippi. We've been in business since 2012, and we are an organic vegetable production farm. We, at this time, we farm in high tunnels. We are proposing some field gardens, but for the last 9 years, it's only been high tunnel farming. And we did have 18 high tunnels. We've recently relocated a farm and consolidated some of the tunnels, but we're still, we'll have 16 high tunnels that we operate. And we do this at 4 different locations. So we are not one centrally located farm. And as we can talk later, that poses lots of risk and other issues when you're located, you're spread out instead of one central location. But I took over as farm manager probably about 6 years ago, and I will tell you, I still learn every day. I don't consider myself a professional organic farmer, but I'm a learning organic farmer. And but I love to answer questions to the best of my ability, and anything that I've learned or that I am learning, I'm glad to share.
We appreciate you so much, Daphne. So I want to let everyone know we do have a part 1, and that will be on the NCAT ATTRA YouTube channel in a few weeks. It's being edited, so it definitely will be up. So please check that out, because in part 1, Daphne was on the farm. And so you get to really see a virtual farm tour of that space. And so please check that video out in the coming weeks. So Daphne, when you were speaking about organics, I wanted to move right into that for as a question. How do you mitigate risk being certified organic with your paperwork and requirements to not lose your certification? How do you all manage that?
Well, I can tell you from the beginning, it was, it took a while to get to the point where we really knew what we were doing. We went through a lot of ups and downs with paperwork. We started out with me and another field technician, we would carry 16 different folders around to keep records to every farm. And we finally figured out a way to consolidate all of that. So we're down to a lot less forms. And I will say it's a lot easier now, and it can be done. And in organic farming, it's pretty much you abide by the rules and do what they tell you from your certifier. And as long as you're following the rules, it's pretty easy to be certified organic. Now, it is it takes a lot of extra steps with paperwork. So I would say I spend, half of my time is probably logging and keeping up with things. But to me, in the end, it's worth it. And like I said, we've been certified. We were conventional for 3 years, transitional, trying to become organic. And after the 3 years, we started getting each farm certified, and now all 4 farms are certified.
I'm sorry, okay, I was on mute. I'm sorry, I was saying that's amazing with having, I didn't realize you all had started doing that for us getting all of the different spaces certified. So your goal is all 16 eventually?
Well, no, now everything is certified.
It is, okay.
Yes, we have everything certified. And that's, with us, it's a little harder because if you only had one farm to certify, it would, I mean, that would make life so easy with that part of it. But it's like you're getting 4 separate locations certified, plus our packing facility is part of it. So you have to keep up with records for 4 properties versus just one farm.
Got you. Oh, wow. Now, could you share with us the risk and mitigating that risk when it comes to your suppliers? That's the first question. So any implements, anything you're pulling in, and then part 2 of that question is where your food is going. So we know you have several contracts. You had shared that with us on part 1. So could you share with us, how do you mitigate risk with bringing things onto the farm as well as things going off?
Well, like we have an organic certifier that is separate from the USDA. So those are the people that we actually have to go through to make sure, like if anything that we want to use on the farm, we have to submit that to the certifier before we can ever even think about bringing it onto the farm or ordering it. And that's whether it's for, you're spraying something, compost, even if you wanted to put out straw or anything in your high tunnels, it has to be approved by your certifier. And so we have to really be careful. Even when we're ordering seed, you have to show that you cannot find the seed stock organic. It has to be an organic seed. If not, you have to show that there's nowhere in the world that you can find it. And you have to keep records of that. And I will share a story from our auditor this year. He audited a farm this past year, and they were following all the rules, didn't have anything wrong. And he said he was going over their records, and he saw where they had ordered organic seed, and the supplier did not tell them they had put a different seed because they were out of the one they had requested. So they sent them something different and didn't make them aware of it. So they planted it, and they lost their certification because of that. So, I mean, you have to be very careful, and I mean, it's just staying on top of everything. And that goes back to, especially with us, you have to trust that everybody working for you is doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're only allowed to spray certain things, put certain things into the soil. And if you have to know that the people that work for you are going to use what you're telling them to use, and that they're keeping records of it. And so you have to have a really good, almost like a farming family that you can trust, that's doing everything the way that's supposed to be done.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was going to ask you, the checks and balances. So I'm assuming you have clipboards and things like that they could check off with their duties, what's supposed to be put on the land and when it was put on the land and so forth.
Yes, each farm has a folder, and it has an input use log, meaning anything that comes onto the soil or your spray or anything has to be written down. And inside that folder, there is a list, because our approved list is updated every year. So the new list has to go into that folder, so that if they ever have a question about something, they can go and look on the list and make sure that it is on there. But, by this time, this point, we know there should not be anything for them to even possibly use that hasn't been approved, or that is on that approved list.
Yes. And then I'm assuming your employees and volunteers have access to all of the amendments and different things that you place on there. So they have access to it to put on the various farms.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, that's available.
Other question is with your supplier. So you made notion of this incident with this farm. So would it be helpful to talk with your suppliers and let them know you're certified organic?
Yes, and I actually had the opportunity this past year. We planted potatoes for the first time in the high tunnels. And when I was searching for potato slips that were certified organic, I found a place that was they were easy to talk to. They understood the part of being certified organic, and they were very helpful and knew the importance of that. Now, some of your larger companies, yes, I would say definitely let them know that you are certified organic also. Which again, you know, a larger company you're ordering from may not be as, you know, you may not get the same person every time when you're dealing with them.
Yes. Yes. And then also with equipment, when they are bringing supplies as well as your equipment, do you have to state that to your supplier for their truck where it's no commingling and contamination?
Right now, we have everything delivered to a separate location, so there's never any deliveries on the farm.
Okay.
I will tell you, when we first started out, and some of our farms were transitional and some were organic, you couldn't take, if you used the tractor or something at one farm, it had to be washed before it was taken to the farm. You know, if it was transitional, it had to be washed before it was taken to the organic farm.
Yes.
But now, and again, even then, because we had different locations, we even had to have separate containers. So the produce that went in the organic containers couldn't commingle with the transitional. And we figured out quick that we had to get all farms certified because it was too hard trying to keep things separated.
Yes. And I have heard that so many times for farms that it's so difficult to do that. So I'm glad that you all are totally certified organic so we can, it's an easy pulling in your supplies as well as things going out. You don't have to worry about that and stuff. Oh, that's amazing. So moving on to our next question is, how do you mitigate financial risk when working with third-party clients when they can cancel an order on you?
Well, so far we haven't ran into that problem. The only problem we have run into with suppliers is, especially this past year, is you'll order seed and you might be waiting, you know, a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden they tell you that they're out. The stock is out. I mean, a lot of seed were hard to find this past year due to COVID. So you always have to have a backup plan for what you're going to do if you don't have that seed or if something is canceled on you. Just like we always purchase our compost from a place here local in Mississippi, and we had a hard time getting that compost this past season. So luckily enough, we had saved some, so it got us through the season. But again, being organic, there's not as many places locally to find some of the supplies that you need. And sometimes money-wise, you do have to spend more because you're having to ship things in from, you know, we were getting some of our compost from Vermont.
Wow.
So, you know, having it local, that can be a big risk, trying to find it local and not having suppliers for that.
Yes. And I wanted to bring that to our audience attention. Being certified organic and just being a farmer in general, planning is the key. That's the first and foremost that we have to do. And understanding that if you are presenting yourself as a certified organic farmer or some other label, you may have to do things 2 months in advance, a month in advance. And so really trying to help our audience understand that you cannot wait 2 weeks before it's time to plant. And that's for any farmer, to be honest with you. You have to plant. And so I definitely wanted to ask you that. The other thing I'm thinking about as well, Daphne, is financial risk when it comes to the entities that's buying from you. So if they cut off an order, like something is getting ready, I know you had an incident with one of those during COVID, but you were able to pivot. If you could share that with us, but do you all have a plan for that if that happens again in the future?
We do. I mean, we try to stay, which with us being a tribal entity, we have I guess you would say a larger community that can help out. We stay in contact with tribal administration in case if we have somebody not want to purchase something, we can possibly get tribal administration to purchase that. So that would be like saying that you get your local government office to purchase what you couldn't sell to go out to the public, or those, lower income, or, people in need that need the food. I would say it's always a good idea to have a backup person that you can always contact if somebody does cancel an order. You have somebody that you can say, can you take this? And with us being mostly grant funded, at times we usually try to put into the grants some type of funding so that we have money that we can put the vegetables out into the community, and it's like we're paying for the produce, but we put it into the hands of tribal members. So we may set aside $3,000 in each grant to say, if something happens and we can't sell this, we can make up bags or boxes and take it out into the community. We're still getting some money for it, but it's through the grant.
I understand. And I think I know that you are mitigating that risk because a lot of people, the first thing they'll think of is, oh, it's grant funded, so I cannot do it. But I also know that, again, like you say, you have your people, you have your community versus a farmer that may not, you really don't have to market, basically what I'm saying, because you don't have to market your food because you have the tribal members there. And so I would tell people that even though we're working with partners that are a little bit, let me do this, that are more larger entities, even though we work with partners like that. But I want you to know that you can do this on your farm. You're able to do these types of things on your farm to make sure that you're putting things out into your community. But the main thing is the risk, knowing what possible risks will come up, and then how do you mitigate that? And one of the goals for doing these workshops is to get small, medium, and large farmers to actually write down their mitigating risk plan. You got to put it on paper. So when you have a volunteer, when you have an employee, they know exactly what to do when this arises. So if this truck come and it's not the normal driver, or it's a different truck, and so all of these types of things, as Daphne is stating to us, you can do that on your farm as well. We get in supplies, and again, if you're not certified organic, or if it's something that you want to move to, these are practices you need regardless. It's just being a farm. That's why we're doing this. And it just happened that our host today, our speaker today, is certified organic, but this works for all farms, that you need to have a risk management plan. And so definitely I wanted to add that in to you, and making sure that everyone understands that. So we're gonna move to our next question. How do you mitigate risk with water, such as floods and heavy rain?
Well, again, since we're in a high tunnel, farming in high tunnels, that's not as big of a risk for us. They were all constructed so that water runoff is to go away from the tunnels. I will say, if you are having high tunnels constructed, make sure that you are there watching the person building the pads, building the tunnel. Know that it's being done right. Know that your you know, you don't want water standing in the tunnels, because that is a possibility. So just from your irrigation. And so flooding is really, that's something that we've never had to deal with, other than, again, we did try one field garden year before last, and I can say that our seed were washed out 3 different times. So I can only imagine with the field gardening risk. But yeah, in the high tunnels, that's not a significant problem.
That's good to hear. I'm glad you're not having those issues. But that really is an issue that most farmers have, is flooding. We have had a lot of rain here in central Mississippi. So we talked about on part 1 about rose washing. You know, that's on us. No one is going to come in and do that for us. We have to deal with that. And a lot of farms have had to deal with that this year. Because of so much rain. Of course, after the freeze that week we had here in central Mississippi. So those types of things usually are an issue. So I'm glad to hear that it's not there at Choctaw Fresh with flooding and water and so forth. So let me move to the next question. How do you mitigate runoff and erosion? How do you mitigate that?
Again, that's something else we haven't had to deal with a lot, but I will tell you that we're having 7 high tunnels relocated from one farm, and we've had to have the pads constructed a little differently for the high tunnels. So we are experiencing some erosion, but again, as far as around the high tunnels, we plant wildflowers. That helps. It's even helped because, of course, some rain will blow into the tunnels, but the wildflowers on the outside of the tunnels actually help with keeping some of that rainwater out. So we practice, you know, conservation that way with erosion. And if it doesn't have the wildflowers around it, and when they were constructed, they were built for the water to run away from the tunnels. So again, that's another thing I was saying. You want to make sure, if you are having one constructed, that you know that the pad is being done the right way, so that water is not running back.
Yeah, that's key. And I'm glad you said that about being present. Your pad have to be done correctly. And I saw again in part 1, everyone, Daphne showed us the wildflowers. So you're mitigating one, erosion and runoff, but then also it's bringing beneficial insects. So I know we talked about on part 1 that also helps with not so much influx of pests. So you are mitigating quite a bit just utilizing the wildflowers. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, yes. And I would like to say, we have had, I was mistaken, we have had some flooding in the tunnels, but again, because we have 4 different locations, we have the risk of not always being able to get to every farm every day. And we don't have anybody that lives at the farms. These farms are left over the weekend, and once, you know, you go home in the afternoon, there's usually nobody there. So with irrigation, all of our irrigation is automated. So for one, you have to trust that your irrigation is working, but you also want to make sure that at some point during that week, at least once a week, you're going around checking your irrigation and knowing that it is running, or if it's not running. And we had a farm at a couple of years ago. The irrigation came on and the solenoid was stuck, and it pretty much flooded the tunnel. So you want to make sure that you always, what we've learned is you want to have either if you do the repairs yourself, you want to make sure you have parts on hand, or if you have somebody that comes out, you have to make sure you have a repair person that understands the importance of, if I call you and say, there's no water in my tunnel, they can get there within hours.
Mhm. Yeah, that's key. One of the things I also want to share with everyone is the high tunnel size. That also can create risk because if you are an older farmer, if you may have just issues of heights, you may be afraid of heights or what have you, that creates an issue as well. So the size of your high tunnel is a you got to think about that as well. That potentially can create risk as well. So of course, NCAT is always a conduit for many entities. So we do not get paid for any of this when we share entities with you. But Farmers Friend is a company that deal with tunnels, but they are lower than the tunnels that most of us have that we got from Grower Supply and all of those different places through NRCS. And Farmers Friend do, and well, they are now a contracted vendor under NRCS. So you can get this particular tunnel within the EQIP program. So that is new to most people. They feel like they have to get one standard tunnel, various sizes. But again, if your health is not there and you could do all this climbing and stuff, because you still have to take care of your tunnel. So if your plastic, tears, you got to buy plastic. So, again, you have to think long term. If your health is not up to par, that you could do this climbing and all that kind of stuff and putting plastic on, I would, suggest and refer you to this company, Farmers Friend. I'll definitely put the link in the chat. To do just a lower tunnel. So it still does what you need it to do. It's unheated, but it's just a lower tunnel that if something ever happens, it's not so tall that you cannot do it with yourself or family members, volunteers, and so forth. So I wanted to add that in there because I know on Choctaw Fresh, it's the standard tunnel that most of us have. They're tall, and you need tools, equipment, and all type of things to put plastic back on. Sometimes you have to hire out to get the plastic back on if you don't have a crew yourself. So wanted to definitely share that. Two more things before we get, one thing, and then we'll get into a question from the chat. We have a partner online, Mr. Russell Bean from Tuskegee University. So please check out the information in the chat that he have shared. They are a wealth of information, him and his wife, with their personal farm, but also his work that they both do at Tuskegee University. So please check out the information Mr. Russell put in the chat. And thank you always, Mr. Russell. I appreciate it so much for you helping me to add this resource in there and the information. So we have a question for you, Daphne. Do you use a heat source for the winter months in your high tunnels? And if so, what heat source?
In the past, we have some seasons we will try to grow into, we'll try to grow cucumbers and tomatoes later into the fall and the winter. And we have used propane heaters, usually 2 per tunnel. And at this moment, I can't tell you the name of those, but they have always worked very well. We actually took some tomato plants one year all the way through the second week of January. And that was by running the propane heaters. And these are movable heaters. They're not in the tunnels permanently. That's something we bring in. So like I said, again, they work well and they got us through the season. I think we ran them probably 7 to 10 times that year. And it can extend your season.
That's great to hear because, yeah, it's several things out here on the market I always ask people to, of course, do your research as farmers to see what's best for you and what's best for your budget. Of course, we could get many things on various price points. So please check that out, what the various heat sources that could be utilized in your tunnel. One of the things just going on trips over the years that really, really have floored me is using a wood stove in the high tunnels. Is individuals do that, and that's nostalgia. I love seeing that because that so many elders have done that in the past to heat up chicken houses, chicken coops, and all of those types of things using wood stove. So please do your research to see what's best for you, your layout, as well as your budget when it comes to those heating sources, because again, you're gonna have some from various price points. Also, my next question is moving into equipment breakdown. So how do you mitigate that risk? Of course, I don't know how much equipment you have. If you have, two tractors and one breakdown and you could grab another tractor, how do you mitigate equipment breakdown?
We do have a tractor, but some of these people may have missed it in the last session. We try not to use the tractor. We actually do not use the tractor in the tunnels anymore. We use walk behind tillers when we do have to till, but we do have two tillers because those things are prone to breaking down. So I would say either you either have parts on standby, or for us, it worked better having two. So if one went down, we had another one to back up. And again, we do a lot by hand. We use the broad fork, so that's one you don't have to worry about breaking down. It's just the people using it that
Yes.
they might break down.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so with equipment, we use backpack sprayers when we do spray, and we even had to purchase two of those because we were having such issues with those. But a lot of that goes back to, if you're the only person using it and you can take really good care of it, that's something that doesn't happen as often. Same with the equipment. With us, we have more employees that different people are using equipment. So we have to make sure that people know how to operate it and how to take care of it. Whereas if it was a small farm or you were doing it yourself, it would be probably easier to maintain that equipment.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. I was going to add that in about having training for your employees and your volunteers. Like you have to do that when you are a large operation / commercial operation. You want to make sure that all people know how to use equipment, because that is financial risk. If they tear the equipment up, you got to rebuy. So we want to make sure. So thank you, Daphne, for adding that in at the end, that you have to train your people to use your equipment. One of the things I wanted to add also, compact tractors. We have a project right now within NCAT Arkansas office that's going to be talking about women agriculture, for as our equipment, tools, the things that as women that we need that may not be on the market, and or the tools that we have found that's good for us and our frame, the body frame. And so I wanted to share with you all about compact tractors. That's something that have been utilized by all, not just women, but I've noticed that it is a tractor that is small enough that you don't necessarily worry about tilting, turning over, low to the ground. And they have tracks. A lot of them either on tracks or they have wheels, but they have more than your normal 4 wheels. A lot of them are dual wheel in the back and so forth. And some even are, I think one of them have dual wheels front and back, and then they're all wheels. So they turn various directions and so forth. So please, if I can pull that right quick, I'll throw a link in there. But if not, compact tractors, that's another thing I wanted to share with you to mitigate some risk when it comes to small body frames, less notion of possibly a turnover. That can happen regardless of what size tractor. If you get on a hill, you put it in a compromising position, it's going to turn over on you. So I'm not saying this tractor won't do that, but when you have the smaller, low to the ground type of equipment, you are lessening that. But of course, it's the person on it too. If they don't know what they're doing, that tractor still can turn over, and can turn over with an experienced person as well. So we want to make sure we definitely give those disclaimers and stuff. But compact tractors, look into that if that's something you need as a small farmer. So our next question is, how do you mitigate risk with market price fluctuation? Because certified organic is a pricey industry, for as your amendments, like you stated. So how do you deal with that when the price is fluctuating, like what's going on now?
We try to stay in line with the market price, but of course, location says a lot. So, depending on where you're at is what you can charge to actually get people to purchase your products. So there's been many times that we've had to go below market value for what, being in central Mississippi. Now we might be able to go to Jackson or to a larger area and sell at a higher price, but we're a little different with our situation because we are trying to keep most of our food on the reservation. So we try to keep it at a very fair, affordable price for, so people can afford organic. And, even if it wasn't organic, just that because it is so fresh and local, and that we try to just make it available with the economy that we're in.
Yeah, it's a big fluctuation right now. My other question is, how do you mitigate risk when we have policy changes? So that's that don't happen every year, but it's something that we have to look at definitely when we have certifications. So how do Choctaw Fresh mitigate those risks when we have governmental policy change when it comes to certified organic? Because that's its own body of work and entity. And then also the GAP certification that you have. So how do you deal with that?
Well, for one, we do have a food safety plan, and that is because of GAP certification, and also just for food safety. So we take that food safety plan, and this time it is up to date. But of course, as policies change, you would have to go in and change the policies to reflect in your farm safety plan. We've had, like when they come in to audit you, they go by your food safety plan, and they also go by the rules for GAP. But you have a chance to, if you're not doing something right, you have a chance to make it right. So, and that comes with different policies. Maybe something has changed that you're not aware of. But again, you have to stay on top of those, any changes that do come, so that you can change your food safety plan or the things that you are doing.
Yeah, thank you folks so much for that. And Daphne, I apologize that I'm having to mute you so often. I'm getting feedback and want to make sure that my question is being captured in the recording. So I apologize, I'm having to mute you every time. So I appreciate you, Daphne, saying that because we always want to think about how we can not necessarily be locked in. We are certified in the various stages of our farms and various things. I was speaking with Daphne before we got on. Our farm business, well, it's even a different business, but we got a health permit. And so anything that you're doing, you have rules and regulations. But with that being said, you have to keep in mind, how do you mitigate that risk if you're marketing yourself and branding yourself to have these particular certifications and then they change on you? And you have that customer that's only coming to you because you're certified organic, or only coming to you because you're GAP certified, or if you are a new cafe and you have these health permits, which you have to have if you feed the public. But it's so many things out here that could potentially throw a wrench into your farm enterprise or your business. So you always want to make sure you're thinking about plan B, plan C, plan D, always, because anything can happen, because that's life. That's life, and we want to make sure. One of the things I wanted to bring attention to in the chat, Mr. Russell was speaking about CSAs can mitigate risk as well, and that is so true. And also, I want to add your online farmers market. That I love that. I've known about it for so many years. And it's been just tremendous with so many farmers doing online farmers market. One, you're mitigating risk because you do not have to pick your produce early. So you're only picking the produce of the orders you have received. So for an example, you could do a Monday, Thursday. So meaning your cutoff for your orders is Monday or Tuesday, first part of the week. And then you are picking latter part of the week. And so, but you're only harvesting what have been paid for. And of course, they are paid in advance. So you have all of that out of the way. And so again, wanted to share that with you as well. Online farmers markets are tremendous. And of course, we had to use them this year in 2020. And still people are using the online platforms because we're still in this. So the online platforms are very good for our businesses as well to pivot to. And so wanted to definitely share that as mitigating risk as well. Another question that we have is, do you have a second person in charge? I know this answer for you, Daphne, but I definitely want to share this with our audience, but do you have a second person in charge to mitigate, a vacation, doctor's appointment, health issues, family needs, those types of things? Do you have someone that is trained, know what you know, that you could just put in place and you know everything will be okay, that when I come back, it's not a fire and so forth? So do you have that in place, Daphne?
To a point. I would say that's not our strongest area of having somebody to replace, because as the people that are on here today may not know, the reason I'm in this position is because our manager passed away. And it was at the time, we were just learning from him as we went. So it was kind of a wake up one day and now you better know everything that he knew or hope you
do. Yes.
But I do have two supervisors that are under me but they know different aspects of the operation, because we have the farming side, then we have our wash and pack side where we, are sorting, packing, getting the product out. So it's that part of it. And we hope in the future, because we actually have we just redid our business plan and our mission statement. So we hope we are making room to have more people to fill what you just said, just in case somebody's not here, that there's always somebody that can take over. But as I can say, it's a 24/7 job, even though it's not my own personal farm and I do work for somebody, it is a 24/7 job. I mean, you are always, even, I've been sick, I've been on vacation, I've been, take a day off, and you have to be accessible every day.
Yes. Yes. And that's what most people don't realize with farmers. It's 24/7, but to mitigate health issues, we got to take care of ourselves. So, and I had
Yeah.
to learn that from some of the people on this Zoom that had to keep bringing that to my attention. But we definitely have to take care of ourselves. Um, one other thing I wanted to share with that's tied into this question that I shared with Daphne and can be shared here as well is interns, thinking about internships on your land. And they can be paid or unpaid, that's your choice. But thinking about those types of things for your land, if you need assistance, if you need that type of assistance, please don't think you're too small. I have utilized AmeriCorps NCCC. And it may be difficult for you because they're housed strategically across the country, and they have various things that they do, because you can have a FEMA type crew that goes out, in like wildfires and different things like that when it comes to the landscape of our country. So you have and natural disaster type things. You have different groups, but our area, Central Mississippi, is very lucky. This particular crew that could be utilized for nonprofits and for businesses is AmeriCorps NCCC there, and they're housed in Vicksburg. So that's one area, and you have to apply. And I wanted to bring it up because the deadline is July 1st. So I wanted to bring that up because that is a crew. You get to decide how many people come to your land and assist. And just a disclaimer, I want to make sure people understand how I utilize AmeriCorps NCCC. Yes, I farm, but that is not how I brought them on. The application was done through various nonprofits that I was manager of and facilitating at the time. Some of you know I was over Mississippi Women in Agriculture. Started that particular chapter here in Mississippi under the leadership of Miss Steele from Oklahoma. So various entities, and then I'm over 4-H, and so have various entities that I can utilize to bring these type of people in when it have to be a nonprofit, not-for-profit entity. That's the only way you can get AmeriCorps assistance. And so I wanted to give that disclaimer that is, and then the other way I utilized it is helping other farms. So when I would get a crew, they not only worked on a farm, but they worked on more than one. So that was the other thing that was able to help us work with that leadership in Vicksburg, is working with the various entities you have as a nonprofit. And then again, like I said, you can't hold all of that for yourself. You have to share the wealth with other farmers that don't know, or of course, elder farmers. Second, I wanted to share with you, NCAT has a platform that again is housed on our website, that allows you to go on and place your information on there to get an intern. So if you go to ATTRA, ATTRA.ncat.org, and it's the second tab from the left, internships, and then it has a drop down. You could go there and post jobs that you have. And again, it can be paid or unpaid. It can have lodging or not. So whatever you are able to offer, we have a platform that you can do that. And last, I shared with Daphne, and these are for certified organic or traditional farmers that are chemical free, woofers. These are people that come to your land, various ages, and they can assist you as well. I will tell you, please do your due diligence with interviewing them. Do not whatsoever take someone at first glance. Interview them, make sure they're the right fit for you. As always, and in anything we do, sometimes you just may not have someone there for the right reason. So please, please make sure you do your due diligence with interviewing them and making sure they're a right fit. And so we are over the hour. I had a few more questions, but I don't want to hold Daphne. I know every single day you're working on the farm. And so I want to keep it at an hour, but I do want to open up just for a minute or two for any of our participants to ask questions. Please, please, can you drop that in the chat if you have a question? And definitely I can open up mics. If you hold your hand, raise your hand, I can do that. We just, of course, don't like for people to be able to talk when we have our speakers, but at the end of our sessions, we definitely can facilitate that. If anyone want to come on mic and ask your question, you can do that. We will unmute you if you raise your hand, if you do that. If not, please drop it in the chat. And we'll give a few more minutes for that. Again, just don't want to hold very, very long. And then Daphne, I'll confer with you on these last. I'm gonna put it out in the open of the last two questions I have, and we can possibly do part 3 on risk management down the line. It won't be now, but I love having you on, and you have just such a wealth of information. But my last two questions were mitigating risk when it comes to crop contamination, water contamination, and explaining those type of procedures. If you know that, you can answer it now. If not, we could put it off. I'll leave it up to you how you want to answer that, or if you want to do it later.
Well, I would say with crop contamination, all of our locations except for one, we have a fence around it. So having a fence around your farm is a plus, especially if you're trying to get GAP certified. We also, the packing area where we wash and pack, it's, you're not supposed to have visitors. If you do have visitors there, to sign in, because that is a major concern when you're trying to get GAP certified. They want to know that no one can just walk in at any time and contaminate your product. Our shipping is done, our delivery is usually done in one certain vehicle. It's cleaned, we send stuff in boxes with tops. Each employee is trained to know how not to contaminate the crops and what to do if something does become contaminated.
Got you. And then water. I brought up water, and I only mentioned that because we had the freeze. And then also just if it's a spill in your area, those types of things. How do you mitigate that with your water? If it occurs, how do you have a plan or procedure in place for that?
The main thing, if you get a boil water notice for your area, because we are on public water, which we only use drip irrigation in the tunnels, so we don't have a risk of it contaminating the actual produce. But if we have a boil water notice for the wash and pack facility, of course, that's something you would know you wouldn't wash on that day. So it may put you behind on your washing and packing, but it's, in the farm plan not to be done on days that if you're issued a boil water notice. But that's one of the main things that we have dealt with as far as water contamination.
Okay. Definitely want everyone to keep that in mind. You have, we have to think about contamination when it comes to risk, and making sure we have procedures in place to mitigate that. So just keep that in mind. So I don't see any hands raised. And we'll close out this session at this time. Daphne, always, I thank you.
Right. Yes, again, thank you for having me.
Yes, I appreciate you so much. And again, this is our risk management session. And this was our organic partner, and we just so appreciate everyone joining us today for this. And again, I want you to make sure, please go to our NCAT ATTRA YouTube channel. That's where all these videos will be housed, and you'll be able to catch part 1 and part 2. Now, on tomorrow, we have again part 2 with Jody Ryer. So please check us out. That's livestock. He does risk management of livestock, and we'll have that. And I wanted to also bring up, we will have face-to-face for the first time for the NCAT Gulf States office. Those locations will be in Fayetteville, Arkansas, Searcy, Arkansas, and then we're coming back to Mississippi the following week, and I'll give you the dates in just a moment. Where the following week we're coming back, and then we'll be in Lexington, Mississippi with Mr. James Birch, and he is on our Zoom today. So we're very grateful to all the partners that we have, because it is tremendous. For us to do this work, we have to have help. And so we're very grateful for everyone that just says yes when that text comes, that email or that voicemail come in, that these farmers say yes to NCAT coming and kind of invading your privacy on your farm and trying to teach the best way we know how. So we're very grateful for that. The dates for Fayetteville and Searcy are July 7th. We will be working with a film crew, hopefully, with one of our farms that will be having a Zoom in August, and it will again be risk management. But our actual date for the Fayetteville, Arkansas event is July 8th, and it will be on one of our specialist farms, and that's Guy Ames, again, out of the Arkansas office, and he is fruit guru. That's what I call him. He knows everything about fruit. So if you have family members, friends that's in the Fayetteville, Arkansas area, please share the flyers will be coming out soon, and you'll see them on our Facebook page and on our website, of course. But please share that with your network. July 8th, and that will be at Guy Ames Farm. So please check that out. And then the second in Arkansas and Searcy is July 10th. And that will be at Holy Cow Farm with Mr. Ryan Pace. So please join us for that. And then last is again with Mr. James Birch. That will be July 16th. On his land in Lexington, Mississippi. So we wanted to share with you the upcoming events. We're so glad to be able to do these events with various farmers around our region. So if you have people you know in those areas, please share our announcement. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth, for joining us, and please see her information in the chat. Another great partner. So thank you all for being here. And I saw other friends in the agricultural profession. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today. And I look for you all again on other events. Thanks, Daphne. We appreciate you being here and always being a great partner.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.